Hi, I'm Freddie Hiebert, the organizer and one of the presenters of this session, Unforeseen Ripples of Text Complexity and the Common Core State Standards. Now, we can define text in many different ways, graphically, hybrid, but ultimately, reading involves text. It may be a decade ago since the initiation of the Common Core, but the effects of two assumptions of the Common Core developers continue to wrought considerable influence on our students and our teachers. In this session, we're going to address the underlying basis for two of these assumptions. The first paper deals with the assumption that text complexity at high school levels was insufficient, and the second deals with the validity of Lexile levels as a predictor of text complexity. Finally, our discussant, Heidi-Ann Mesmer, will respond to the findings. And in lieu of a paper that was withdrawn from the conference, we've asked Heidi-Ann to summarize results from a study in press that she's authored that corroborates the themes and findings of the two studies in this session. So the first paper, authored by John Strong and myself, is entitled The Endpoint of the Staircase of Text Complexity, Revisiting Text Complexity at the Secondary Level. The Common Core's argument for acceleration on the staircase of text complexity came primarily from a study conducted by a researcher named Gary Williamson. What Gary did is he took the lexiles of 75 content area text at grades 11 and 12, and he compared the average of these texts to the average of the lexiles of a sample of college and workplace texts. That is, texts such as these in literature, chemistry, mathematics, and history were each given a single Lexile score, and then their scores and those of 71 other texts were averaged. The single score of 11,023 for the 75 texts was 259 Lexiles lower than college and workplace texts. This level was then used to recalibrate the text difficulty levels of all of the steps of the staircase from primary levels on. What John and I did is we took a sample of texts from the Williamson database, the ones that I just showed you, and we took the middle unit of these texts. What we found fundamentally is that the vocabulary demands of the text varied enormously from content area to content area. And most critically, the rare vocabulary, those words that account for 5 to 6% of the text, had absolutely no overlap from content area to content area. In other words, across the school day, high school students are moving from class to class where the vocabularies are totally discrete. That could be thought of as an obvious finding, but once you see the quantity and nature of the words in these content areas, it's mind-boggling when thinking of a typical teenager. In the second paper, authored by Catherine Rand, entitled Effects of Altered Lexile Levels of the Same Text on Reading Comprehension, Catherine looks at whether lexiles actually do provide an indicator that differentiates comprehension. Now, the Common Core developers argued strongly against the dumbing down of text. But with the ease of establishing Lexile levels that was also promoted by Common Core developers, an unintended consequence of the Common Core was the proliferation of sets of the same text, but with a range of Lexile levels. In the case of the most popular program, Newsela, each text is offered according to the 6 steps of the Common Core's staircase of text complexity. Catherine studied the effects of 5 versions of the same passage on the reading performances of middle schoolers at 3 proficiency levels. Regression analysis showed no significant contribution of text level to overall comprehension scores. And Catherine also showed that different types of comprehension are affected differently by text simplification. The discussant of this session, Heidi Ann Mesmer, is going to respond to the findings, and particularly, she's going to consider the findings in relation to a study which she's the first author of and which has not been previously presented at LRA, entitled, Does One Size Fit All? Exploring the contribution of text features, content, and grade of use on comprehension. Science is built on replication and elaborations of existing research. The two studies in this session add to a growing body of work that indicates that basing evaluations on sentence length, the dominant variable in the Lexile framework, fails to capture the complexity of text for students. In particular, as the ideas of text become more complex in content areas, attention needs to be focused on the demands of new vocabulary, not simply the level of sentences. We really hope you'll join us for this very important session. Thank you.